Israel? The fact is that Israel could not maintain the genocide if the United States were not sending the weapons and the funding for them to do so. That is a fact. If the flow of weapons from the United States stopped, the genocide would stop. That is a fact. And so our most urgent task here in the United States is to do everything we can to force an arms embargo, because the flow of weapons starts with us and it has to end with us. Over 52 countries have called for or implemented some form of arms embargo, and this has often been the result of organized workers forcing their leaders to do that. In the US, we are making and shipping the weapons, and in other countries, workers are refusing to handle them, refusing to allow them to get to Israel. In Italy this weekend, right now, dock workers at ports across the country are on strike, refusing to handle the ships that are bound for Israel. And that has inspired a national general strike in Italy, which is happening tomorrow. In Morocco, workers have refused to handle cargo bound for Israel, and they have gone to jail for it. In Spain, workers and activists together have stopped a Maersk ship carrying F-35 parts from the US from getting to Israel just this week. In Greece, in Belgium, in Turkey, in France, all of these workers are throwing sand into the gears of genocide. The weapons are coming from here, and the workers we are sending them to are saying, no, we will not be complicit, and they are waiting on us. It is our turn now to say, no, we will not be complicit. No more weapons, no more cargo.
No more weapons, no more cargo.
We demand an arms embargo.
We demand an arms embargo.
No more weapons, no more cargo.
No more weapons, no more cargo.
We demand an arms embargo.
We demand an arms embargo.
Yesterday, I saw another video of the thousands of videos that I've now seen of a baby who's just bombed by Israel with a US bomb, and the baby's legs were black and gray and red and charred and bloody, and just still underneath that you could see like how soft and tender that baby's body was. Their bones weren't even fused together yet. And all I could think about when I saw that was just knowing that this rally was happening today in Ron Wyden's backyard, and knowing that he has raised 5 children and continues to knowingly fund and support this horrific crime. Shame!
Shame!
So today we're going to hear from a few speakers, and then we are going to march to Ron Wyden's house in a funeral procession with this art that we have, because we are going to mourn the dead, and we are going to fight like hell for the living, and Ron Wyden needs to know that he can either support an arms embargo or he can get out of the way, and we will fill his seat with someone who does. So first today we are going to hear from a representative from AFSCME Local 88.
Hi, how's everybody doing? This country right now is at a critical moment. We in the labor movement have to decide, will we have the courage to bring the ongoing genocide in Palestine into our workplaces, into our personal lives, into our conversations, and every place where we hold even a small amount of power? Or will we be weak-kneed, lily-livered, shivering cowards? Here, in the heart of empire, is where the global shift toward liberation must begin. 25 years ago, I was part of a movement that brought together labor, environmentalists, and radical anarchists to bring down the World Trade Organization to stop the free trade area of the Americas. The global justice movement, calling out global capitalism, dominating the world's resources at the expense of all of us, the poor and working class people around the world. And by the way, if you are working for wages and you have a boss, you're in the working class, so be proud of it, own it, and know that the union bosses are sometimes just as bad as the labor bosses. Back in 2002, When we brought down the free trade area of the Americas in Miami, labor activists there and across the country pressed the head of the AFL-CIO, John Sweeney, to divest from Israeli bonds. He didn't budge. But now, for the first time, the Oregon branch of the AFL-CIO has passed a resolution not only condemning the genocide in Gaza, but calling for the national board of the AFL-CIO to divest from Israeli bonds. This only happened because of locals like my own AFSCME Local 88, which was among the first locals to pass a ceasefire resolution. Yes, Local 88! Back into the 2024, we also passed a divestment resolution pressuring the Oregon State Financial Board to divest our retirement funds in the Public Employee Retirement System, or PERS, from Elbit Systems, an Israeli weapons company. The board told our union that they are no longer invested in Elbit. So, victory there, but it's recently come out that because they invested in mutual funds, they don't even know what companies our public employees' retirement funds are invested in. This is outrageous. As a state, as people, taxpayers in this state, we need to demand full and complete disclosure and divestment. Resolutions are great and powerful, but they only go so far. Words don't speak as loudly as actions. Yes. Like Palestine Action in the UK. Since the beginning of the unions, since the beginning of wage labor, every worker knows that the most effective action is collective direct action. So following the lead of workers in port cities in Europe and the Arab world, do whatever it takes to stop the manufacture, transport, and sale of weapons to the death machines of the Israeli and US militaries. Respond to the call of over 500 trade unions and organizations in Palestine, calling on all of us to boycott, divest, and sanction the apartheid state of Israel until it falls just like apartheid fell in South Africa in 1994. As the great labor leader Cesar Chavez said, yes, we can. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Union workers worldwide,
Union workers worldwide,
stand against the genocide.
stand against the genocide.
Union workers worldwide,
Union workers worldwide,
stand against the genocide.
stand against the genocide.
All right, next we are going to hear from Angela Bonilla, the president of the Portland Association of Teachers.
Yeah. Teachers. You got this.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes. As y'all know, my name is Angela Bonilla. I use she, they, ella pronouns, and I represent almost 5,000 educators as president of the Portland Association of Teachers. We are in a fight for our collective humanity. Every day, we are seeing babies, children, adults starving to death on our phone screens. We're seeing people's water polluted by AI programs. We're seeing people kidnapped because of the color of their skin or their accent when they speak. What happens in Gaza, in Yemen, in Iran, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Congo, happened and will happen again in the US. We have no other option but to fight. And those who profit from the war machine, who are too afraid to throw away the propaganda they've been fed, will tell you that this isn't an education issue. We should just stay in our lane. Well, there is not a single school building or university that existed in Gaza in 2022 that is still there. The only schools left are the makeshift classrooms the remaining educators have created to give a semblance of normalcy for our children. The libraries left are those college students reading their books by a flame, attempting to complete their studies. And I say our children because these are all our children, every single one. That's right. If education is being denied to any child, it is unacceptable. We have no option but to show up and fight back. And those same people will tell you that it's not a labor issue, that we should just focus on bread and butter issues. Well, there is no bread or butter if our nation continues to invest in creating and transporting bombs instead of investing in education, in green infrastructure, and workforce training at home and abroad. There is no bread and butter when politicians are more interested in maintaining their political contributions than in maintaining your freedom of speech. We have no option but to show up and fight back. So tonight we grieve. We come together to grieve and love and remember. As Cornel West said, the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. We must let those atrocities be seen, be spoken, be felt through our tears. But do not allow that grief to consume you or falsely empower you to speak over those who are harmed. Let it wash over you. Let it cleanse you of the capitalist and imperialist stains on your body as you know deeply, deeper than anything else you've ever known, that another world is possible. It is being born right now through each of us, reflected in every single tear. And do not forget, we must grieve so we remember why we fight. And I want to end with a prayer. And I will use the word God here, but please imagine that God is whatever you hold sacred as the thing that connects us, the thing that is divine. I'm reading from a book called Black Liturgies, Prayers, Poems, and Meditations for Staying Human by Cole Arthur Riley. For those grieving global terrors, God who is moved to tears, we have become desensitized to the cries of our neighbor. We confess that the trauma and terror of the world roll off of us like oil. Help us to never become so familiar with pain that we grow disinterested in collective liberation. But keep us from that obsessive attunement which is prone towards savior complexes and feigned allyship. Lead us into a kind of solidarity that reminds us that in pausing to bear witness to suffering, we do not center ourselves as the rescuer. We do not become the voice. Free us from the responsibility to understand every tragedy at once. Help us to discern our capacity for solidarity, for lament. Help us to learn when to stand and when to rest and when to allow others to do so, remembering that our activism is shared among a collective. We do not have to hold it alone. If y'all will breathe with me, let's take a deep breath in. I will not be silenced by fear. And breathe out. A quivering voice is still sacred. Thank you.
I know that when we show up to protest members of Congress, it can feel like we're yelling at a wall often, but there is movement on this issue. Last night, the Congressional Progressive Caucus voted to endorse the Block the Bombs Act, which would block some weapons shipments to Israel, and that is a caucus that represents over 100 members of the House of Representatives, and that is huge. Even Suzanne Bonamici signed on to the Block the Bombs Act, which I would have never seen coming. She was endorsed by AIPAC. So this would not have been possible if it weren't for these kinds of actions where we just keep the pressure on until they can no longer ignore our voices because our voices are louder than AIPAC's money. Do we have someone from Zaytuna here to speak today? I know it was a child care dependent situation, so seems like no. Okay, in that case, we are going to march now, and then we will hear from a few more of our speakers that are representing unions when we get to Wyden's house. We do have a brass band here today that is going to help us really make this sort of like a funeral procession style march. So do we have someone from safety who's gonna help lead the way?